We all use devices like this, and these are quite common. Everyone uses it. Touch it for a button. You can talk to your loved ones, and you can get access to internet. Your email is here, and there are very useful apps. But then there are fraudulent activities like SIM swap, an unethical or illegitimate app which extracts a lot of information from your phone and misuses it. How do you manage risks like this? This is why we will talk to Haseeb Awan, who's the CEO and founder of Efani Secure Mobile, a company that helps high net worth individuals in protecting privacy when they are using mobiles. And we will talk about what is SIM swap? How does it create a privacy challenge? How can you avoid it? What are the other privacy challenges that exist on mobile phones? And how do you prevent or protect yourself? Let's go and talk to Haseeb.
Hello, and welcome to the Fit for Privacy podcast with Punit Bhatia. This is the podcast for those who care about their privacy. Here, your host, Punit Bhatia, has conversations with industry leaders about their perspectives, ideas, and opinions relating to privacy, data protection, and related matters. Be aware that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not legal advice. Let us get started.
So here we are with Haseeb Awan. Welcome, Haseeb.
Thank you, Punit, for having me on the show.
So let's start with an icebreaker question. When you think of the GDPR, what's the one word that comes to your mind?
From a consumer point of view, pretty annoying. Like you have to go through a lot of pop-ups every time. And from a company's point of view, I believe that it could be become very complex, right?
Yeah.
For every company to follow that. And I know a lot of companies in the US who just stopped doing business with Europe, and GDPR was one of the reasons. So if I'm in Europe, I need to have a VPN to access US websites a lot of times because they don't allow you to do that. They say, oh, this website is banned in this country. And we do not serve film customers in Europe too for almost similar reasons, because it's become very complex. So to answer, it is probably good for people. And the only challenge is that how to make it that's not inconvenient for people and companies to conduct business.
That's an interesting viewpoint. I think it's definitely complex, and I share that view. And if it's not well implemented, the user experience can be annoying as well. That's a possibility. Now, you are in an interesting field, and in your field, we talk about something called SIM swap. What exactly is this SIM swap?
So I don't know about how it works in Europe, but I'll just explain to you. Imagine you are working Vodafone, right? And you are a customer of Vodafone. Again, I just picked up a random name. It could be T-Mobile, it could be like 3G, whatever it is. And what happened is that someone goes to those, works in the insider store, and they get bribed or get social engineered, and they transfer your information to someone else that's not supposed to. So right now, if you look at our telephone number, my telephone number is linked to a lot of things. My bank account, my friend, my WhatsApp, my Telegram, my pretty much every messenger, my social media, everything is linked to my telephone number. So if you have access to my telephone number, you can potentially say, I lost my phone, do authentication on those phones and get all my data, right? So that's a very common thing that happens on multiple apps, right? That's a very common thing that happens for multiple clients. So in the US, it is becoming such a big challenge that, because people are taking this phone, like literally they have turned into a business where someone will get a job in a store like Verizon, and they say, I charge $500 per SIM swap. Give me $500, I'll do a SIM swap for you. And that's how easy it is. And the challenge with all of this is that it's, how can I say that? It's, people are losing millions if they have it, but every consumer is getting dinged by like $20,000-$30,000. So I will pay someone $200, and they will give me your account, and by that I'll be able to look up your email address, because everything is public now. That's part of privacy too, because every day there's a data breach where your and my information get leaked. So my email address, my passwords, my date of birth, they are get leaked all the time. So they use that information to impersonate me, get into my bank account. And telephone number is the easiest way to get into account, because everything is, whenever you forget password, you say put your telephone number within your code. And so that happens in the US, and because of that, every major carrier is victim. And as per statistic, 80% of attacks are successful. So anytime someone wants to hack into your account, 80% chance they're successful.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's essentially a kind of fraud in which someone has swapped your SIM with another SIM which you are not aware of, and are using that to do a fraud on your behalf. I mean, maybe operate your bank account, operate some other things on your behalf.
Absolutely, because telephone number, email address are two entities. If someone has access to your email address and your telephone number, they can pretty much take over everything. And your email address is linked to your telephone.
Yeah. So if that happens, let's say the SIM swap, how does it impact an individual? I can understand there can be financial implications, but what happens? Does my SIM stop working or it keeps working
Yeah.
and there's another one?
No, it basically your SIM stop working. So, but the challenge you may not notice, and the reason you may not notice is because now a lot of stuff is you may at home, and a lot of stuff is done on the what do you call? Yeah, you may be home, and a lot of stuff is done purely because of on Wi-Fi. So you may
Mm-hmm.
not even make a call for 2 hours or 3 hours. And a lot of time it happens at midnight. When
Mm-hmm.
you are sleeping or you're traveling. So they keep an eye on when you're traveling because again, this information is so publicly they run algorithms,
Mm-hmm.
and once they have access to your account they will just once they have access to your account they can just they know that you're traveling, or like who will come on, like today there's a holiday in the US. If someone hacked your account yesterday, it will be till Monday when they get access, because Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So even though your phone is not working, you can't do anything. You can't go to a store, you can't call anyone. Everything is
Okay.
closed for 3-4 days. So these are times that happen, but yes, your phone will stop working essentially. With the eSIM, what's happening is they normally will take away your SIM card and restore your SIM card in the morning. So you may not even know what happened.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. And then is there also a privacy challenge in some way?
It is a privacy challenge because people log into your social media and get into your email addresses and everything, and they take your personal information. Like you may have personal content on your iCloud or your Google Drive or something, and they have access to everything. So once they have access to, again, your email address, your telephone number, you can literally scan your inbox, get all the information. So first of all, they drain you financially. They take away all the money that you have. They take. Once they've stolen the money, then they go into and they say, okay, I've stolen the money now, and let me go into this person, like phone records and everything. If I can find any critical information. So once I have your some kind of like personal information, I can then use it for blackmailing. Hey Punit, I have your pictures, or I have your this record, I have a client data, can you give me the money? If you don't give me the money, I'll make it public. And some people have turned into like a SaaS model where you are forced to pay every month.
Oh,
So yeah, so you pay once and then say, don't pay us once, pay us like $1,000 every month, and people will keep on paying $1,000 per month.
interesting. It's a kind of fraud at a different level. And do you know of any incidents, any instances that it has happened for people in real big way?
Oh yeah, man. Like we happen like I think FBI said like it has increased by 4x last year. I at least have dealt with maybe a couple of hundred people myself who have been a victim of this. But even if you take our victim, I think there are probably a few thousand clients that are victim every day. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a pretty common thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. And in that case, are there any numbers to substantiate that this is a common trend or which regions it's common?
US is very common because very easy to do in US, and US is the highest ARPU. So if you look at
Mm-hmm.
cyber attacks, the highest number of attacks happen in the US, American citizens,
Mm-hmm.
because the ROI is the best ROI. I was looking at ROI that if you spend $1 into hacking someone, you get $27 back. So if you have it's like a better than VC model. So I call it fast, fraud as a service. So and there are companies who do it on money. So you can hire people and they'll do it for you, and they will sell exploit, and they say, oh, I don't care how you steal the money, I'll just SIM swap for you. And then there are people who will target people. Then they say, okay, Punit is the one that should be hacked, or Haseeb the one should be hacked, and they keep
Mm-hmm.
an eye on it. They run algorithm, and whenever there's a chance to money,
Sure. And then, how can one protect himself or herself or maybe secure their systems? Are there any ways in which I, as an individual, can protect myself against this kind of a fraud?
So unfortunately, the challenge is that big companies have tried to do that, and the challenge with all the big companies is that because they serve a mass market, so unless they stop giving access to everyone, it's not going to get stopped. And the reason for that is purely because anyone can make a change, and legitimately, like you may lose your SIM card, you walk into a store, they want to replace it. So how do they change it? So if they can do it for you, with a personal authority to give it to someone else, it means that he has authority to give it criminal as well, right? So how do you stop someone from who's making $10 an hour to stop making $1,000 for like 10 minutes of work? It's very tempting. You pay $10,000 and then you're done. So I'm not sure about Europe, but some companies actually in the US have implemented a lock. You have to call them up and you have to set up a lock. The only challenge is that those locks do not work.
Okay.
So that's a preventive thing. Otherwise, just use like a hardware key or something, or use like a two-factor authentication as an app based or that, and in the US, like Efani exists. The only challenge with our company is that we not serve everyone. We have a very limited size that we can contain, and slightly we are not the cheapest one in the market. So it's like a bulletproof service. So there's a premium to that. So average person cannot afford it. So, but for average customer, they should just use two-factor on everything and use hardware key, and that's the best way for them.
And what's your service all about? How do you help protect? Because I understood from our conversation earlier that you help high net worth individuals in protecting themselves against this kind of a fraud.
Yeah. So we have cell phone service. Think about like AT&T for us, but we are AT&T, like a bulletproof AT&T. AT&T is like selling a McDonald's or having economy class for everyone. They serve to a bigger market that everyone who's using will get the same fish fillet. While we are like more like a steak, where it's like a specific service or first class service. So essentially, you get the same coverage, but we don't sell data. So every major company make money by selling your data. That's their business model. It's part of your contract. When you sign up, they say we will sell you, and that's how we make money. In our case, we don't sell. So we say there's two. So you have your own data, and there are two buyers for it. Either the company has to make money by selling it to criminals, so data brokers and everything, who buy and exploit it against you. That's the most easiest and more common method. We went to the other way. We said we will not sell you data, but we'll charge a premium for that. It's not affordable to sell services at that time. I don't believe that criminals should be subsidizing your service because they're buying your data. If they're buying $1 worth of data from you, they are basically money off. So our pitch was that, why don't we do one thing? Why don't we sell rather than selling your own data, we'll just charge you customers. So we say you're not a product. Why don't we just charge money for that? So we charge money to our customer, and secondly, we guarantee that no one can get into account. So, and if hypothetically you're unable to fulfill a promise, you're insured up to $5 million.
So is it like a firewall or a software piece app that
Uh,
sits on the phone?
no. It's basically a SIM card. So we are like a MVNO. I don't know if you heard about
Okay.
MVNO in the US. So we are MVNO that disallows anyone to hack.
Okay. So there are two parts that I wanted to talk to you about. One is the SIM swap, but then in the modern world, as a phone, as a device, there are also some threats, security threats, privacy threats that are there. So because with apps, a lot of data is being tracked, a lot of information is being tracked and collected and sent to the app provider. So and then we talk about the virus or malicious intent on apps and collecting data not relating to your app but other apps which exist on your phone. What's your view on that kind of thing? Is that also the fraud that classifies as in your domain?
So it's a sloppy subject, right? The reason I say it's a sloppy subject because like Instagram, just take example of Instagram. You take a picture and you post it. Obviously, people are not going to know where you are. If you share that, oh, I'm chilling in Puerto Rico on this beach, people will know that. So that's okay. Like people, as long as people have consent, that's okay. The challenge is when apps come in and they start monitoring your behavior and start exploiting you without your. So I'll give you a simple example. Like on Facebook, you can actually find out if you know that Haseeb is interested in a specific political issue. Then they can use that political influence against me and say, hey, Haseeb, I know that you are against this cause, and then they'll pick up opposing candidate and pick up all his statements against that cause. So I say, oh man, I was supposed to vote him, but he's against my cause. So they can actually pinpoint what I'm looking for and exploit it. Similarly, if I'm going through a trauma, and I'm very weak. And I'm very weak at that point of time. So what they can do is they can actually show me the ad which exploits me. So that's very common for people. Now, on one end, they are able to point the right solution, which is also good. But same time, people can use it for which happens in a lot of election and political parties. So there is a moral hazard there where companies are exploiting it for their own reasons. And sometimes people don't know, right? Like by default, everything is enabled. So I think when we like TikTok had a big scandal, like how they are looking into not just your app, but any action that you take from the app, they also monitor that as well. So that's the problem. And the challenge I know from a privacy point of view for you is that it's very hard for people to get convinced that this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like privacy will say, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong, why I should be worried? But it's not about that. Like you don't want a camera in your room all the time.
True.
So what is being recorded, what is not being recorded is a challenge. So I believe that people should have a consent of how they should need to be recorded.
Yeah. And I think more than consent, it's also about transparency that the app provider tells you what they do, because doing things what you're telling is fine, but you're doing things which you're not telling, That's where the issue is. But how does one manage? Because when an individual user, a layman user, somebody who's not very well equipped with all the technical and security skills, let's put it like that, how does one protect against these kind of situations? Especially phone is so prevalent every day, with everyone now.
Simple option is do not use every random app. That's a simple solution. And don't download any America app. Like, no one is giving you money. A lot of people, we'll give you $100 if you download this app, right? Work from home, we'll click on this link. So don't pick up random links. That's the first option. Second option is that keep your operating system up to date. Operating systems are now getting better at like detecting those things. Third is don't download any random apps, right? And also in apps, there's some things that you can do. You can go and say, don't share my location, example. That's pretty common. And then you can also say that, okay, not share my location, but also in pictures, you can actually disable your exact location. So every time you take a picture, it comes with your coordinates if you're that much privacy conscious. And the biggest challenge is when people share their home addresses. So I personally use a virtual mailbox, so no one knows what my address is. But that's part of security reasons too, but not everyone can do that. And again, the challenge comes is people say, I don't care, and they fell victim for it. But on the phone, simple thing, keep your operating system up to date. Make sure you don't download random apps. And then if you use like Instagram to say how to make your Instagram more secure and private, and they have options of what need to be done. So follow those. But again, people do not generally do that because they're lazy.
That's true, and I think sometimes it's laziness, sometimes it's carelessness, and sometimes it's lack of awareness or lack of skill also. But you say it well. Be super careful around what you download on your phone. Not any random app. Check the authenticity of the app. Make sure your phone is always up to date with latest updates, because then sometimes security loopholes are plugged in. And be careful when you're posting. Be careful when you're using an app, and know what you're sharing online. So I think these are the basics for hygiene when it comes to using your phone. And it's not commonly in place for most people, especially those who are fascinated with technology and end up using fancy technology and don't have those skills.
No, certainly. Again, it's about education. You mentioned, right? A lot of people do not know what to do. How should we actually manage all of these things? So if you're asking about that, people will say, "Oh, why do I need to care, man?" And you're just being extra cautious. It is turned into a taboo if you care about privacy.
Yeah.
And I give a simple example, man. Do you want a camera in your movie every time? In camera in your washroom, camera in your living room, camera in your bedroom. That's all about privacy. So we just don't want anyone to watch it.
Indeed, you don't want a camera or a recorder every time. But I'm tempted to ask you another question saying, how did you and when did you come in touch with this field of fraud or privacy challenges or security challenges with phones? How did it all start for you?
Just around 3 years ago, and the reason it happened was because I was personally SIM swapped 2 times. And no, sorry, I was SIM swapped 4 times in almost 18 months. And I went from carrier to carrier, so moved from one carrier, and I told them, I'll be SIM swapped, just take care of me. And they realized that, okay, yes, we'll do it, but ultimately anyone in the store can break into my system. What I realized was that, okay, it's not, it's difficult to do it. So these companies say they do it, but they're not built for specialized market. They mostly built for mass market. And so I set up a service for myself. I said, if I'm ordinary person, I'm getting harassed and I'm basically unable to protect it, what's the market for that? So yeah, that's what happened. And I started fixing this problem, and almost like just over 2 years. And now we have a fairly good customer base.
That's interesting. And the customer base is mostly in Puerto Rico?
No, all across US.
Across US.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that's brings us towards the end of the conversation. I mean, I'm really enlightened, and you show light on the aspect of swim swap and privacy challenges, which is an area everyone needs to be concerned or be aware of, because there's no easy way out. The only way is to be alert, be careful, and continue to update your phone. And that's about it. So I would say thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful to have you, Haseeb.
Thank you, Punit. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you liked the show, feel free to share it with a friend and write a review. If you have already done so, thank you so much. And if you did not like the show, don't bother and forget about it. Take care and stay safe. Fit for Privacy helps you to create a culture of privacy and manage risks by creating, defining, and implementing a privacy strategy that includes delivering scenario-based training for your staff. We also help those who are looking to get certified in CIPPE, CIPM, and CIPT through on-demand courses that help you prepare and practice for certification exam. Want to know more? Visit www.fit4privacy.com. That's www.fit4privacy.com. If you have questions or suggestions, drop an email at hello@fit4privacy.com. Until next time, goodbye.